Hello everybody, a warm welcome to Wisdom from North. My name is Jannica and today I'm about to interview Dr. John Demartini on Skype again. John is considered one of the world's leading authorities on human behavior and personal development. He has written over 40 books and travels the world with his research and findings. And he's probably the one in the world that does the most public speaking, having done over 400 speeches last year in 60 countries. It's amazing. And today we're going to speak about self-love, and I'm really looking forward to meet John again on Skype today. Okay, so John, today I would like to speak more about self-love, because the last time we spoke a little bit about how we can deal with family issues. When we're in the middle of a situation, our family members or anybody pushes our buttons, it hurts and we react. And you gave us 4 steps that we could take. And you talked about that it was a giant mirror for us, that we could see sides of ourselves that we hadn't fully embraced yet. And then you told me about that you had been going through the Oxford Dictionary and you saw that all the traits there you had in yourself and you were able to embrace them. And I've been thinking about that, and if you could speak about how we can embrace and love even the dark sides of ourselves, because honestly, I don't understand how it's even possible.
Well, the dark sides that we think are our dark sides also have some light to them. We've all had moments in our life where we've had an event occur that somebody has done something that we thought was terrible, we didn't like. And then a day, a week, a month, a year, or 5 years later, we look back at our life and go, you know, that was a turning point in my life. And if it wouldn't have been for that, I wouldn't have done this. And so instead of have the wisdom of the ages with the aging process, it's wiser to have the wisdom of the ages without the aging process, by going in there and finding out how it's going to serve you now. How does it serve you now? Everybody has a set of values, and when things challenge our values, we label things dark. When things support our values, we label things light. But we must have both to grow. So sometimes the things we think are terrible have a hidden terrific in it, and the things we think are terrific sometimes have a hidden terrible. I have people all the time come to me and say, well, you know, I just bought this beautiful new home, and it's it's amazing, it's this and that. And I go, And 6 months later, a year later, they go, this friggin' house, it's costing me a fortune. Now it's got this wrong with it and this wrong with it, and they don't come and fix it. And the very thing they thought was terrific has terribles, and the very thing that they had terribles had terrifics. So I think the light and shadow is really a misinterpretation. I think the real truth is it's all love, and it's our job to find out how it's love. And I think that love is a balancing act. It's a synthesis and synchronicity of complementary opposites. Just like you have times when you want to hug the person you love and slug the person you love, this together makes up the 2 sides of love, and you need both. Because you get cocky, they need to bring you down. If you get humble, they lift you up. They're trying to get you to be authentic. So the very things that you think are pushing your buttons that are the dark sides have light in them. The things you think have light side have shadows. So I always say that honor both sides. You'll have a more balanced orientation. You won't react as much, and you'll stop and contemplate the blessings of these things without reacting. And I look back at my life. I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for the challenging sides, the so-called dark sides. So I think we can all look back and see that if you took out all the things that we once thought were dark out of our life, we wouldn't be doing much at all. It's those challenging moments that make us grow. I always say if you're not searching for things and going after and pursuing things that challenge you but yet inspire you at the same time, you wouldn't really go do much in life. You need the challenges. You need some of those things that are dark. And I've looked at people that have done things that are so-called shadows and dark sides or whatever, but they still serve people, and they balance. I know people, this one woman that came to me and she says, well, I'm so generous. I like to be generous. I like to give people things and everything else. But then she was starting to find out that the generous was actually making people enabled, making dependent, robbing of motivation and dignity and all these things. And she started saying, well, even in that thing of generosity has now the downside. And then she said, well, then other people that expect things from her, she's stingy to. And then but what makes them do is become accountable and independent and think creatively and come up with solutions and contribute to society. So the thing that you think is light and dark are really inseparable. Let me give you another example. You know, when you first get in a relationship, you sometimes think, oh my God, if you're a woman, you might think, oh, this guy is so intelligent. Oh, I'm so inspired. It's like an aphrodisiac that he's intelligent. But then you find out he argues with you. He likes to be right. He always talks over you. You know, he outwits you. He manipulates you. He always thinks he's right and self-righteous. And the thing you thought was terrific has downsides, and you get frustrated with him over time. And then the thing you think, this guy looks at this girl and says, oh, she's so attractive. She's so beautiful. And then you find out that she takes forever in the bathroom, and then she costs a fortune, and she's got clothes everywhere, and she has smelly stuff all over the place, and he only gets a tiny 2 inches of the bathroom in the closet. And so then he realizes this thing that he admires has the dark side. Everything has 2 sides. And wisdom is embracing both sides equally and knowing both are necessary for the evolutionary of our conscious development.
Okay, so I see that. It makes sense. But in the middle of that feeling, I have troubles even still accepting it. So do I need to meditate on it? I mean, even though my intellect understands that there might be something positive in this. For instance, when I'm lazy, you know, I haven't done anything that day. I was supposed to do all these things. I didn't do anything. I get so angry at myself. And even though I know that, you know, there's some positive sides to this, my body doesn't feel it. I'm still angry. I'm still annoyed. And the day's kind of ruined. So do we really have to look at our inner child or something?
No. You just said something very important. What happens when you're lazy and you think you should or supposed to do something else? Let me explain something. There's no such thing as a person who's lazy. That's a false construct.
Okay.
What happens is lazy is a label that we put on ourselves or we project onto others when we expect ourselves to live in somebody else's values or expect others to live in our values. So what happens, you just said supposed to, which is an imperative language, which means that you've somehow subordinated to somebody else's expectations and value system, and you think you should be doing something that's not really valuable to you at that moment. You're doing what's valuable to you at the moment, but you're beating yourself up. You're beating yourself up because you're thinking you should be doing something that somebody else expects you to do, somebody you read in a book or something you think somebody else would do or somebody is expecting you to do. But the truth is, your highest value right then is saying, I'd like to do something else. I'm not doing what everybody else is expecting me to do. So you're not lazy. See, my highest value is researching and teaching. I do it every day. Nobody has to remind me to do it. The second I get any moment, I'm researching and I'm teaching. I have 2 talks today. I'm constantly doing it. Okay, so I'm not, in my highest value, I'm very disciplined. But when it comes to things like driving or cooking, I haven't driven in 24 years. I haven't cooked since I was 24 years old. I don't do anything, domestic duties. I don't do anything other than research, write, travel, teach. So I would be considered by somebody who had a value on those things as a lazy person in those areas. But I'm not. I'm not a lazy person in my own values. I'm just not interested in living other people's values. And people are always projecting their values onto you. So you can't label yourself lazy because of other people's values. You have to be honest with yourself about what you value and know that if you're staying on your priority, which you will, you're doing exactly what you're designed to do. But if you're expecting to live in somebody else's values, you're going to label yourself and then beat yourself up. Anytime you try to expect yourself to live in somebody else's values, you're going to end up with the ABCDs of negativity towards yourself. You'll be internally angry and aggressive toward yourself. You'll blame yourself and feel like you keep betraying yourself. You'll keep calling it sabotage. You'll end up criticizing and challenging yourself, and you'll feel depressed because you're not living up to a fantasy of trying to live in somebody else's expectations. You're not going to. The only time you're going to do something that other people expect is if they communicate it in a way where you're getting your values met, and then you'll do it.
It's amazing.
So you're not lazy. You're very dedicated to. You're not. Look at all the work you did just to put these programs together. You're dedicated to what you value. You're just not dedicated to things that other people expect you to be. That's not really important to you.
It's always about yourself. I'm so amazed by that, to realize that. So I wanted to speak a little bit about depression today, because I saw on your website that it stood
Demartini it. Are you depressed? Demartini it. And I think there's like 25% of the world's population that have been depressed or feel depressed, and myself included. And in those moments, it feels like there's no way out other than pills, which I'm not taking. So how can we deal with that? Is there a way? Is there a way to become happy or accept it?
Well, I don't try to promote happiness. I think that's not a reality. Because like a magnet, trying to get a positive without a negative is foolish. So I don't promote happiness. I know that sounds odd on the program. I promote fulfillment. Okay. And fulfillment embraces both happy and sad, and positive and negative, and joy and sorrow. I mean, you got to handle them both in life. So I always say depression is a comparison of your current reality to a fantasy that you're addicted to. And as long as you're addicted to a fantasy of expecting a positive without a negative, a happy without a sad, a joy without a sorrow, a nice without a mean, a kind without a cruel, a one-sided magnet life, you're going to be depressed because that's not how life is. Life has a balance. So if you're expecting a one-sided world, you're going to keep being depressed because you keep expecting this current reality to be different than it is. And you're expecting it to be one-sided. Or you're expecting either you to live in somebody else's values, or you're expecting others to live in your values. There's many reasons why we have depression, but every depression I've ever seen is built out of 15 basic delusions. I'll be glad to go through them. 15 delusions. I've never seen a depression. I've worked with thousands of cases. Never seen a depression without 15 delusions. An unrealistic expectation on other people to live in a one-sided way. You're expecting other people to be nice, never mean, kind, never cruel, give, never takes, generous, never stingy, peaceful, never wrathful, and that's one delusion. The second delusion is you're expecting other people to live in your values and not their own. So now you're projecting what they should be doing and expecting them and labeling them because they're supposed to be living in your values. Fantasy, it's going to set up a depression because they're not going to do it. They're going to live in their own values because they make decisions based on their values, not yours. So anytime you project your values on them and expect them to live in your values, you're going to get depressed. You're going to get angry. The third one is a combination of those two together. You're expecting a one-sided world and you're expecting the world to live in your values and support you more than challenge you. These are childish behaviors, but people do it, and they end up depressed and angry. The next one is an unrealistic expectation on yourself to be one-sided. You're supposed to be happy all the time, never sad, always positive, never negative, always kind, never cruel. Again, another delusion. That's not true. I did a research project for 2 years showing that that's an impossibility, but people still live in that fantasy because they've been sold opium of the masses, thinking they're going to be a one-sided person. They're not going to be. I mean, I've met with some of the most amazing people on the planet. They always have both sides, nice, mean, kind, cruel, etc., including me. Then the next unrealistic expectation is that you're to live outside your own values and live in somebody else's values. You're not going to do it. You're going to live according to your own values because every decision you make is based on what you believe will give you the greatest advantage or disadvantage at that moment, based on your values. Then the next one is a combination of those two. Then the seventh one is a combination of all of those. All those, any variation and combination of those. The eighth one is an unrealistic expectation on the universe itself. You're expecting the universe to be positive without negative, support without challenge, build without destroy, kind without cruel. But that's not how nature works. Nature has predator and prey, and it has build and destroy. It has building of mountains and erosion of mountains. It has spring and fall, summer and winter, build and decay. It's always a symmetry law of conservation that's there. So if you expect the universe to be one-sided, again, you have a delusion. You're going to be angry at the world. What's this world coming to? You're expecting it to be one-sided. The next one is you're expecting the world to support you and live in your values. And you go around praying to some sort of anthropomorphic God who's going to protect you from anything that challenges your values, which is very childish. When you need challenges to make you grow. Otherwise, you don't get creative and you don't get innovative. And the next one is the combination of those two. The next one is 3, 6, and 10, all of those. The next one is an unrealistic expectation on some mechanical object like this computer to be only one thing. It's supposed to do something it's not designed to do. I mean, I've watched people cuss out computers and say stupid computer and talk to a computer when the computer's just a machine. But they have things that they expect a computer to do that's not designed to do. And sometimes they expect a computer to give them information that they're not even keying in. Like they may expect to have a positive cash flow in their financials when they haven't saved the money and invested the money. And then you have the combination of those two, then a combination of all of those. So these are the 15 delusions that I find in every case of depression. And many times the pharmaceutically motivated psychiatrists are basically telling you have a biochemical imbalance. Well, that's true, but that's not the cause. If a tiger jumped into a room and started chasing you, your cortisol levels would go out the roof. Epinephrine, norepinephrine would go up the roof. Dopamine would drop. Vasopressin would drop. Serotonin would drop. Your chemistry would be imbalanced because of one perception. So it's not because you have biochemical imbalance that's causing these problems. That's the symptom of repressed misperceptions that have been accumulated through our life and unrealistic expectations. Because when I go in there and I take people with unrealistic expectations, make them aware of it, and dissolve them, the chemistries go back to normal. So I'm always amazed at how people just suck up and go run to a pill when they don't need to. They have more power, and they don't realize their power. They don't realize that they've been addicted to fantasies, and that's the source of their depressions. If you run a story and be a victim of your history, you don't grow. You got to stand up and become master of your destiny by taking command of your perceptions. You know, if you stop and ask yourself when you're feeling depressed, what are you comparing things to? Depressed about what? Well, you say, well, you're going to automatically say, well, it should be something different than it is.
I should be happy.
What would be the draw? Well, but that's a fantasy. You know, we're not going to be happy all the time. That's a complete delusion. There's nobody on this planet that's ever done that. I've chatting with the Dalai Lama, and he's not even happy all the time. That's ridiculous. It's a fantasy that people live in, which is the source of their sadness. Because the second it's not there, they go, oh, there's something wrong. You know, I always say that depression is not a disease. Depression is a feedback mechanism to let you know you have unrealistic expectations you keep projecting onto your life. And it's trying to give you a feedback. It's actually there to help you. Instead of saying, oh, I got to get rid of my depression, why don't you find out what it's teaching you, get the lesson, so it doesn't have to keep reminding you.
So it's real about actually accepting reality as it is all the time.
Well, I think that it was Prabhupada, who was from the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, maybe back in the 70s when I met him. He said that Om Tat Sat, he says, as it is, the magnificence as it is greater than the fantasies we keep imposing on it. I think there's some wisdom in that.
Yeah.
We're missing out on, how are we going to be grateful for life if we keep wanting to change ourselves relative to others or others relative to ourselves and don't have grace and thank you for the way it is at times? When we're grateful for what it is. You know, when you love people and appreciate them for who they are, they turn into who you love. When you love and appreciate yourself for who you really are, you turn into the person you love. But when you keep expecting yourself to do something that's not real, you're going to keep beating yourself up. And you don't need to get rid of it. I tell people in my seminars, you don't need to get rid of any part of yourself to love yourself. So often people are thinking, well, I need to get rid of my meanness or my cruelty. No, you're going to be mean and cruel your whole life. If you look carefully, you'll see it's been with you your whole life. It's going to be with you. Whenever somebody challenges your values, you're going to come out with mean at times. It's well, welcome to life. So it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
But is it really okay to act on that meanness?
Yes. I'm the first person you'll probably have on your interview that says, you know what? Welcome to life. That's not, you don't have to beat yourself up because sometimes you're mean. Because you know what? I've been tough on people and really mean to somebody and changed their life and woke them up from their fantasies and made them become more accountable. If you stop and look, sometimes the people that are mean to you will make you grow. They make you teach yourself, makes you start to value yourself. There's a lot of benefits that come from both sides. So I don't sit there and try to live in some Pollyanna fantasy world that's you got to get rid of half of your life. Because I'm sometimes nice, sometimes I'm mean, sometimes I'm kind. I worked with a lady this last weekend in the Breakthrough Experience, just the other day in the Breakthrough Experience in Calgary, 2 days ago. And she had a death in her family, okay? And she was really grieving and all this stuff. And I went in there and I showed her how to dissolve it because I have a science on how to dissolve grief because people who lived in grief for years and it's silly. You can dissolve that stuff quick. And I went in there and showed her exactly how to dissolve it. And I had to make her accountable for her misperceptions. And the moment I did, it was over with. She was done. And I do this all the time. Every weekend I do this and I show people new technologies and how to dissolve these emotional states. When she was done, she goes, I can't believe I can't even identify with grief now. I said, exactly, because grief is a withdrawal symptom from your addiction to fantasies about people that you're holding on to. And so once I dissolve those fantasies, you appreciate people and you love people and you'll feel their presence and there's no grief. So the second I actually did that, a lady in the audience said, well, you were tough on her. And I said, yeah, but if I'm pussyfooting with her and I'm all compassionate with her and everything else, we don't get anywhere. So I got really confronted her and I made her really face her stuff, break through her illusions, At the end, she came up and gave me a hug. She says, I'm free. And I said, exactly. But I would have been perceived as tough on her and really, firm with her. That part is needed too in life. We call it tough love if you want it, but I think you need everything. That's why I think it's here. Any part of our life that would have not been service to humanity would have gone extinct. If it's here, it serves. We want to find out how it serves and use it wisely. All the traits we have are needed. That's why you're not going to get rid of your traits. And the idea of trying to get rid of half of yourself is a waste of time. Love all the parts of yourself. Sometimes you're going to be nice. Sometimes you're going to be mean. Welcome to life.
But still, isn't it something about trying to become a better person, trying to become kinder, not react?
No.
No?
No, I don't promote that. That's a fantasy that people do because look at your life. Be honest. I know this is going to put you on the spot, but be honest. Are you nice sometimes and sometimes mean at times?
Yes, I mean at times, and I don't like that, see?
Well, that's because you're addicted to the one side, maybe. Maybe you're thinking, I got to be only this way. You somehow injected that value from some authority that you're supposed to be kind, don't be cruel, and this and that, but you still got both. Did I tell you the story that I did on the last little segment about the exercise I did on positive thinking? Did I share that on the first segment? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Can I share? Okay, I'm gonna share an amazing story. It's you'll probably never call me back again.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, but listen, I'm gonna share something. Okay, all right. And when I was 18 years old, I was a surfer. Okay, I almost died when I was 17, almost 18. And if the surf was up, I was up. If the surf was down, I was down. I had ups and downs like everybody. Then I ended up leaving to Hawaii, and I went back to Texas, and I started to learn how to read. So I didn't read till I was 18. And then in the process of doing it, I started to want to learn and grow and everything else. My parents bought me a book by Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. Okay, you probably heard of that book. So I started reading that book, and I thought, okay, I should be more positive. So I started reading this book and tried my best to be positive throughout the day. But inevitably, something would happen, and I'd either be upset with myself or upset with somebody else or want to avoid negative people. So the first thing I did is try to avoid negative people, which is negating people, which is negative. So that was futile. And then I noticed that when I was up, I felt proud and cocky. I'm up. When I was down and had a negative thought, I'd feel shamed. I didn't feel pride and shame until I read the book, and that allowed Norman Vincent Peale to become my authority. So now I'm sitting there going, now I'm feeling proud that I'm up and positive, and now I'm feeling shamed if I'm not. I used to just feel neither one of those. I just felt a little bit up and down. I didn't feel, but now I'm feeling proud and ashamed. And then I was trying to teach what I was learning, and I started telling people, be positive, be up, be positive, be positive. But then I found out that when I was up, I was proud, and I was down, I was shamed again. And I noticed that I still had negative thoughts, either privately to myself or privately to other people. So I'm thinking, well, somehow I'm not successful at this. So I started reading more and more books. Well, I accumulated a vast library on personal development, trying to get positive. And then I noticed that I was avoiding certain people because they kept bringing out my negativity, or I was avoiding people because they were more negative, and I was negating people. And I'm thinking, well, that's negative thinking. So it's like no matter what I'm trying to do, I keep having it. So then I noticed that I was trying to teach people how to be something that I wasn't living. So then I went and got to various seminars. So I met with Norman Vincent Peale. I got to meet with him. And I met him in front of 1,000 people, and you know what he confessed? He says, I'm one of the most negative thinking people you ever met. I wrote the book on positive thinking to balance me out. And that was, I gave him a cheer. I said, good, somebody's speaking up the truth here. Then I met 5 other famous people. I'm not going to get their names, but 5 other famous people that were the movement of positive thinking. I watched them get rage, yell, scream, negative, and everything else. And I went, all right, I feel like I'm now a human being. My heroes are having both sides. And I mean, they really got rage, one of them. And I thought, all right, this is great. This is human behavior. And so I then decided, here's that I'm teaching positive thinking, but I'm not living it. And I feel like a hypocrite. And I asked a lot of people that felt like they were a hypocrite, trying to be a one-sided person. So I thought, this isn't it. And in physics, they don't show one-sidedness. In chemistry, they don't show one-sidedness. Sociology doesn't show one side. I didn't find it anywhere except in this delusion of trying to be a one-sided person. And then I realized the fastest way to disempower somebody is to make them try to live in a one-sided world that they can't live up to, and they'll beat themselves up. And we can now sell them opium. It's an opium to the masses thinking. And so then I decided I was going to do a research project. And you're going to think this is neurotic, but I did this, and it's a true thing that I did. I went to 300 of the best-selling books on positive thinking in self-help. And I went through and circled every positive word out of those books. Every positive word. And I put them on index cards, 3x5 index cards, and I stuck them in a box alphabetically as I was accumulating. So I literally went through 300 of the best-selling books: Psycho-Cybernetics, Magic Thinking Big, Win Friends, Influence People, Positive Mental Attitude, everything. And I extracted out 2,000 words out of those books. They were the most positive words I could find in the English dictionary. The most positive words I could find that were available in English out of these books. I put them in the discard. Then I closed my eyes and I meditated on each one, and I wrote up an affirmation and a quotation, including each of those words italicized in bold inside that quotation. Because that was big in this is back in 1982. This is back when, 1983, when all of a sudden affirmations and subliminal tapes were big. So I decided I was going to use a subliminal word inside an affirmation or quotation with the most positive words in the English language and the most positive affirmations I could create. I took that and I put 2,000 quotations together, affirmations. I divided it up into 365 days. It ended up being 5 or 6 quotes a day. I published a book. You can look it up on the internet. It's there. 2,000 quotes to the wise, a day-by-day guide to inspirational living. You can find it if you look carefully. I published the book. It was 365 days, January 1st to December 31st, 5 or 6 quotes a day of the most positive words that I could find, most positive affirmations I could create. Go read it. You'll see it. Then what I did is I decided to create a form that had 7 areas of life: spiritual, mental, career, financial, family, social, physical, down the side. 31 days across, so 1 day per each day of the month. And then in each day, at 7, 11, 4, and 7, I monitored how I felt during the day, 4 times a day, every day, on a +3 to -3 state. So in other words, how am I feeling spiritually? Am I feeling spiritually enlightened, or am I feeling darkened? Do I feel mentally sharp? Do I feel dull? Do I feel vocationally successful or failure? Do I feel financially viable, or do I feel, no money? Do I feel relationship, closeness, intimacy, or do I feel distant? Socially outgoing and extroverted, or introverted? And physically vital, or feeling yucky? I monitored it 4 times a day with a beeper. So a beeper would go off every 4 hours, and I would monitor how I felt at 7, 11, 4, and 3, and 7 again. And I monitor it while I'm affirming those affirmations over 600 a day. I've affirmed those affirmations. I memorized the 5 or 6 per day every morning, and I would recite them 108 times each. That's 600 and something affirmations on average per day. While I'm monitoring this, and I did this for 2 friggin' years, 24 months, to find out once and for all, was positive thinking giving me an outcome? Okay, so this is not a joke. This is real serious research on this. When I did this, at the end of 2 years, 24 months, I was the most volatile I'd ever been in my life. Really? I had mania depression going on during this period because I was trying to make a one-sided person out of myself. And then what I did is at the end of it, I calculated all the numbers. 0. I did not accomplish anything. I was up and down and up and down and up and up and down, down, up, down. So that was the end of my positive thinking mentality. It was done, over with. I've been trying to teach people that, and they're still living in the fantasy of going to be a one-sided world. So at that moment, that was the shift. It was 30 years ago. I shifted my entire construct, and I started teaching people to be able to love all sides of themselves, because it's not going to disappear. And that shocks people when they first hear it, because most people are into the one-sided world, but it's real. I dare somebody to do that exercise and not discover the same outcome. And that shifts people, because you don't need to get rid of half of yourself to love yourself. You can love yourself with all of it. You're going to go through your life and you're going to have all those things in your life. You might as well love it all. You got to learn how to love other people with it too.
Well, that's just amazing. And I just want to kind of thank you for doing that work for us. I mean, I've done some research on myself as well. And I think sometimes you have to do that to really understand things. And it's coming more and more clear to me that it's about, accepting our shadows, and more spiritual teachers, I feel like, are talking about their shadows as well, especially like Teal Swan that I'm going to interview on Thursday, which I think is a great thing, because then it's authentic. It's real.
the thing is the shadow isn't the shadow and the light isn't the light.
Right.
They're not even separated. It's our ignorance that makes those names.
Yes, that's the thing. Yes. And guys, you have to see that in the previous interview as well, because we talk more about that then. Thank you. This was, again, true wisdom to me and very interesting. And the interview went another way than I thought it would go. And that's always great and exciting. And I know you have to go now, but I hope one day that you'll come to Scandinavia and talk. Is that on the schedule?
I have no idea. I just go where I get an itinerary every day, and it tells me where I'm going to be today. I don't know. I'm sure I'll be there. Okay. I've been in Norway before, but I haven't been in a while, so I would love to come back there again.
Yeah, we would love to have you. Well, thank you so much, John, and good luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching, guys, and much light from Oslo and Los Angeles. Bye-bye.